glittering.
We would invite all those here to stand and join us in the recitation of the Lord's Prayer, followed by a moment of silence. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. It is now 7 o'clock. Shelby City Council meeting is called to order. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Seated, please. Roll call, please, Mr. Crum.
Mr. Robb.
Here.
Mr. Roberts. Here. Mr. Gates. Here. Mr. Martin.
Present.
Mr. McLaughlin. Here.
I'm now entertaining a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal from December 19, 2022.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Roberts and a second by Mr. Martin to dispense with the reading of the journal from December 19, 2022. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Robb.
Yay.
Mr. Roberts. Yay. Mr. Gates.
Yay.
Mr. Martin.
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin. Yay.
That motion passes. We now come to the time for public comment. If anyone has comment they would like to make to council this evening, or if you want to reserve time later on in the agenda, you can come to the podium, please state your name and address, either reserving time or making public comment. Is there any public comment? Hearing and seeing none, move forward to then the reports from standing and special committees. The Community and Economic Development Committee, Councilman McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We did meet at 3:30 just a few hours ago, briefly, just for a few minutes. Two issues I'd like to address to council. The land sale for the Black Fork Brewing is to close tomorrow. Construction is, they hope to start in March, and with plans to open in September of this year. And then the second item I'd like to brief, the Certified Local Government Grant for Local Design Guidelines that Shelby Historical Preservation Commission went for this year. They were awarded $11,696, short of the $20,000 they were going for. And so Christina Drain, she's going to be stepping down as the chair here soon from that commission. Yet she or a representative will be here at our next city council meeting to discuss this issue. That's all I have at this point.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Are there any questions or comments from Mr. McLaughlin in regard to his report? If not, we'll move forward then to Public Works and General Operations Committee. Councilman Robb.
Public Works and General Operations Committee met on the 27th. It was really a lack of business, and after short discussions on the progress being made on the Black Fork Commons and the sale of the Mansfield Avenue property, the meeting was adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Robb. Are there any questions or comments from Mr. Robb in regard to his brief report? Thank you very much. Parking Committee, Councilman Roberts.
I got the briefest one. We met, we brought to order and automatically closed her down because there was no information. So,
All right, no
real report.
We'll look forward to information in the near future, I imagine. All right, thank you, Councilman Roberts. We'll move forward now to reports of city officials. I will keep my remarks very brief. The last few weeks have been involved involving typical mayoral duties mixed in with storm weather and holiday celebrations. Been involved in project meetings, committee meetings, phone calls, office visits, email, inbox, outbox, staff meeting, personnel conversations, and so forth. Some of the events over the last few weeks have been the Richland County Safety Council meeting, the Board of Revisions of Assessments meeting, and had the wonderful privilege, I think it's the first time we've had 3 personnel sworn in at the same time. We did swear in 3 firefighter paramedics last Friday. It was a good time there, and very happy for our department moving forward. And as my friends and fellow public servants, I wanted you to be among the first to know that today I took out my election petition for the office of the city of Shelby's mayor and seeking another 4-year term. So that's my report. Any questions, comments? All right, if not, we'll move forward then to Brian Crone, Director of Finance.
Thank you, sir. My office was kind of busy, kind of not, depending on how you look at it. It was slow for the vast majority, but then right around the 31st, especially Mrs. Cutler gets incredibly busy closing the books, and I know that Mrs. Gunner has also really worked hard to get POs closed and everything. So thanks to both of them for all of their hard work to do that. Now the fun starts all over again as we file all the year-end reports and start appropriations and all that exciting stuff. As promised, my update on tax revenue. We did, in fact, break $6 million. We brought in $6,007,835.94 in tax revenue last year, which is the first time we've ever even come close to that. I'm sure it was all me. No, that is not true at all. We did, that's right. We did have some of our businesses had very good years, which helped a lot. But I do need to hand it to all of our current and former tax clerks who served those roles this year, as well as the court system and law director, to really work hard to get folks caught up with back taxes and such. I don't know the exact dollar amount that brought in, but it was a pretty good chunk of change. That's why you've seen the last couple of years really increases, is the activities of those folks. So thanks to all of them for their efforts. That really is all I have. Oh, I guess the audits, the audit we'll discuss tonight, the health department audit is finishing up. And that will be released soon as well. But that's all I have to report, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Crum. Are there any comments or questions for Mr. Crum in regard to his report? Mr. Gates?
Mayor, the finance secretary could repeat that number of the income tax revenue.
$6,007,835.94.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Any other questions? Mr. Mark?
I don't think we had ever hit 5 before, correct?
I think we just went over 5 last year, just barely.
So that's a drastic jump regardless. So.
All righty. Mr. Eister is not able to be with us here this evening. He is out of town. So we move to Mr. Joe Geis, project coordinator.
Thank you, Mayor. Just very brief, just working on our projects for this year, and there you go. So, not too much to report.
Thank you, Mr. Geis. Any questions for Mr. Geis? All right, we'll move forward then to new business, the 2021 state audit. Mr. Gates.
Thank you, Mayor. This comes under the heading of boring but important. It's been the practice here at council that once the state audit is released, we go over and discuss pertinent parts of it at a public public session of council. We do that because we want to be accountable and we want to be transparent. The complete audit is, I think, 109 pages. It's available on the state auditor's website. So if someone wants to read it, he or she certainly can do that. It's the first part of the audit, lots of tables, lots of figures. It's not till we get to the end that we get to what is, I think, the really pertinent part. An audit can, there's usually three things that happen in an audit, and we'll start with the easiest one. Those are recommendations, and those are things that the examiners suggest that the city implement for subsequent years. Mr. DeVito said that, former finance director, that in many cases the recommendations were made to make the auditor's job easier the next time they came through. Well, that's valid. So the next is up the serious list is citations, and that's where they find that the law was not followed, and they point that out. The most serious are findings. There can be findings for recovery, meaning that either money was misspent in violation of law or there was theft. And I can assure the taxpayers of this community that there are no findings for recovery in this audit. However, there is a serious matter that the auditors pointed out. I wish to share that again so that we can be transparent and accountable. And this is finding number 2021-001, Municipal Court Monthly Bank Reconciliations, and this is labeled as a significant deficiency. I'm quoting now from the audit report. Sound accounting practices require that when designing the public office's system of internal control and the specific control activities, management should ensure adequate security of assets and records and verify the existence and valuation of assets and liabilities and periodically reconcile them to the accounting records. The reconciliation of cash, parenthesis bank, close parenthesis balances, to accounting system records, parenthesis book, close parenthesis, to the accounting system is the most basic and primary control process performed. Lack of completing an accurate and timely reconciliation may allow for accounting errors, theft, and fraud to occur without timely detection. The municipal court maintains two bank accounts separate from the city's treasury, through which the collection and disbursement of all monies for the municipal court are made. The clerk of courts is responsible for reconciling the municipal court accounting ledgers to bank balances on a monthly basis, and management of the city is responsible for reviewing the reconciliations and related support. Monthly bank-to-book reconciliations for the municipal court civil and criminal bank accounts were not prepared or reviewed each month of 2021. In January 2022, the clerk of courts contracted with an accounting firm to reconcile these bank accounts on behalf of the city. However, the reconciliations prepared by the accounting firm reflected an unreconciled balance of $4,724 in the criminal bank account and an unreconciled balance of $782 in the civil bank account as of December 31st, 2021. Additionally, these civil and criminal reconciliations improperly reported several checks that cleared during 2021 as outstanding as of December 31st, 2021. Failure to accurately reconcile monthly increases the possibility that the city will not be able to identify, assemble, analyze, classify, and record its transactions correctly or to document compliance with finance-related legal and contractual requirements. Further, the lack of accurate monthly reconciliations increases the risk of theft/fraud over the cash cycle and could lead to inaccurate reporting in the annual financial statements. The municipal court should record all transactions and prepare monthly bank-to-book reconciliations, which include all bank accounts and all fund balances. Variances should be investigated, documented, and corrected. In addition, the management should review the monthly cash reconciliations, including the related support, parentheses, such as reconciling items, close parentheses, and document the reviews. The official's response to this. The city will contract services of an independent accountant or retired auditor to find the transactions that have created an unreconciled balance in the bank accounts. Additional training will be given to the clerk of courts to prepare bank reconciliations. If necessary, the judge will prepare bank reconciliations. The judge will review monthly bank reconciliations. If necessary, the director of finance will review the statements. We then come to the summary schedule of prior audit findings as of December 31st, 2021. This is finding number 20 from 2020-001. Financial reporting, significant deficiency. Finding first occurred in fiscal year 2014. The status is partially corrected, and the finding is being repeated in the current audit management letter. Then we have finding 2020-002, municipal court monthly bank reconciliations, significant deficiency. The finding first occurred in fiscal year 2017. Its status is not corrected. The finding is being repeated in the current audit as finding 2021-001, which I just read in total. Monthly municipal court banks reconciliations were not completed during 2021. See officials' response to the finding. Now, there was a reference made to the management letter. I want to take a look at that. There are non-compliance findings. The first one, number 1, public records policy acknowledgement. Ohio Revised Code section 149.43E2 provides that all public offices take certain actions with regard to their public record policy. Public offices must distribute their public records policy to the employee who is the records custodian/manager or otherwise has custody of the records of that office and have that employee acknowledge receipt of the public records policy. The city has no written acknowledgement that the records custodian received the public records policy. This could result in records requests not being fulfilled in accordance with Ohio Sunshine Laws. The city should maintain written acknowledgement from each record custodian/manager to document receipt of the public record policy. The next is the unclaimed funds, municipal court. Ohio Revised Code section 1901.31G states that on the first Monday of each January, the clerk must list all cases more than 1 year past for which money has been collected but unclaimed. On the first Monday in January each year, the clerk must transmit notice of unclaimed funds to the party or to the party's attorney. Money still unclaimed each April 1st must be paid to the municipal treasury. The clerk of courts did not complete the annual required procedures for unclaimed funds at the end of 2020. Failure to accurately account for unclaimed funds could result in misstatement of municipal court balances. The clerk of court should perform the appropriate procedures regarding unclaimed funds annually as required. The next section is recommendations. The first one is IT, logical access. It has any number. It's very detailed, very specific. I dare say very wonky. I'm not going to go over this in any great detail. Item 2, again, an IT recommendation regarding antivirus software. Item 3, IT disaster recovery planning. Number 4, IT service level agreement. Number 5, on financial reporting. Again, those have been distributed, I think, where appropriate. Mayor, I believe that perhaps you already have, or you are going to notify people at each location in the city, the person who is the records custodian of that policy. Perhaps at the next council meeting, you can give us a little more detailed response to that. The IT, I know that we are soliciting, or have solicited proposals for a new IT consultant. I'm not sure when that is going to be awarded to a new consultant, but I would certainly imagine that all these IT recommendations would be the first thing on his or her plate. Mayor, I want to go back to the findings regarding the municipal court. As it says here, this finding that I read in great detail, it first occurred in 2017. So we've seen this citation in 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and we're going to see it in 22. So we've had this significant deficiency that is going on 6 years. That is unacceptable. We've had any number of audits where we list what management's response is going to be, and it doesn't ever seem to get better. I don't know whether the clerk of courts, whether she can't or won't do this reconciliation. But at this point, I'm convinced the only way that this is going to be taken care of to the satisfaction, dare say, of council and certainly of the administration and of the state auditors, the only way that that's going to be resolved is that the clerk of courts needs to be replaced. I take no joy in that, but again and again and again, for 6 years now, we're faced with the same deficiency. And not just a deficiency, what the state auditor labels as a significant deficiency. One of the worst things that I've seen in a city audit, and I've seen lots of city audits. Mayor, I would move that the 2021 city audit and the management letter be received, placed on file, and posted to the city's website.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. Martin that the 2021 city audit and the management letter be received. What was the next?
Placed on file.
Placed on file on the city website.
Posted to the city's
Posted to the
website.
city website. Thank you. That is the motion and the discussion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Rob?
Yay.
Mr. Roberts? Yay. Mr. Gates?
Yay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McGraw?
Yay.
That motion passes. Thank you. Mr. Gates.
At the risk of sounding like I want to kill the messenger, which I don't want to do, but this is an audit for the year 2021, which ended a year and a few days ago. It was privately released to members of council and the administration early in December and wasn't released to the public until the 27th. I looked back on the state auditor's website to see, when each year's audit was released. And it's getting later and later and later in the year. And so what happens is because we received the audit so late, we know that whatever was in last year's audit, well, now 2 years back, is going to be in last year's audit. That's not acceptable. If the expectation is of the state auditor that local governments will use the audit as a tool to do our jobs better, we can't do it with one-year-old information. Now, when you count all the municipalities, all the townships, all the school districts, all the counties, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of them. I get it. But it's very frustrating, for me, and I think it's frustrating for, others, that it takes so long to get this important tool.
Agreed. All right. Thank you, Councilman Gates.
You're very welcome.
There is a letter, a report from the Board of Revision. I don't know if council would like to take action upon that this evening on the new business. Mr. Gates?
Mayor, I move that the letter be received and placed on file.
Second. We have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. Martin that the letter dated December 27, 2022 from the Board of Revision be received and placed on file. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Rob?
Yay.
Mr. Roberts? Mr. Gates?
Yay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yay.
That motion passes. Thank you. Any other new business we brought before council this evening? How about unfinished? Oh, sorry, Mr. Martin.
I just wanted to provide one comment on the state audit. I certainly hope that the administration heard Mr. Gates's plea for the replacement of the clerk. I certainly second that feeling, and I certainly hope that the administration shares that with the judge.
Thank you. Unfinished business, the future use of Main Street Fire Station. There's been nothing changed in that status as of now. Mr. Martin.
Do we, I guess, at this point, what are we waiting on? Is there a general timeline to when, the mayor can determine whether it's needed for a municipal purpose? I'm just trying to get a feel for, it's been sitting empty for almost a few months now, so, a couple months at least, so, is there kind of a timeline the administration's operating on?
I will answer, it would be my hope and desire that the first quarter we would have some direction. Any other unfinished business? Mr. Gates.
Mayor, I move that council meet as a committee of the whole to discuss ordinance number 1-2023.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. Martin that council meet as a committee of the whole to discuss ordinance number 1, 2023. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Excuse me.
Ms. Gates.
Meeting as committee of the whole gives greater freedom to the members to discuss as opposed to when we formally are considering legislation.
Very good. Agreed. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Rob? Mr. Roberts? Mr. Gates? Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yay.
That motion passes. Council goes into a committee of the whole at 7:28. Mr. McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Discussion
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Attached to the ordinance is a result of some research I did before the turn of the year. Looking to see what the salaries are for elected officials in area small and mid-sized cities. You can see what those numbers are. Shelby and Ashland are charter cities. We have a finance director. Bucyrus, Gallion, and Ontario are statutory cities. They have not only an elected auditor, but also an elected treasurer. So that's why you see a couple blanks under Shelby and under Ashland. When I got this information and charted it out here, to use a baseball metaphor, not only are the salaries for Shelby officials in the ballpark, I think they're in the infield. Since they are in the, certainly adequate for, especially compared to other places, when I drafted the legislation and Mr. Martin and I discussed the salary ordinance in very vague terms in the executive session of last finance department or finance committee meeting, that the assumptions that I used were to just use 3%, 3%, 3% across the board, which is what the our current collective bargaining agreements are. The other assumption was that, and one that we've used in the past, is that the whatever OPERS decides is the minimum salary to accrue 1 year's worth of credit, that be the amount for members of council. And that number from OPERS is cheap. That's going up 1.75% each year, beginning in January 2020 through December of 2029. What happened is we had used that assumption in calculating previous salaries for council members, but then OPERS changed the target. So that's why at present what council members earn is very close to a year's worth of credit, but it's not actually a year's worth of credit. So those are the assumptions that were made in drafting this piece of legislation. Again, the council members, their salaries would be what OPERS defined as being not full-time, but to earn a year's credit. And then for the mayor, the law director, and the finance director, going 3% for the 4 steps. We have a duty imposed upon us by the city charter to take care of this matter before February 15th. The idea of that, of course, is the filing deadline for city officials comes after February 15th. The current salary ordinances we have in place only go through the end of 2024. And so there would be no salaries for people coming in next year if council fails to do its duty by enacting a salary ordinance for elected officials. So that's the background.
Yeah, I want to reiterate, 3%, 3%, 3% was our basis for the other elected officials, not for council members. Council members, again, just follow the strict protocol of OPERS, and I believe, as you said, 1.75%.
Correct.
So council members are not getting the 3%, 3%, 3%. It is literally the basis for 1 year for those 4 years is what has been put in. My only question, and I should know from previous ones, and I didn't have a chance to go back and look, but it's just a question. Obviously, we are currently in January 1st through 2023 to January 1st, 2024. Is there a need to put those salaries in here? Because this is just replacing what is on the books. And again, that's a very technical question. I didn't know if we needed to put this year's salary as the respective A in these ones and then bump it out to 4 years. Because if this completely replaces it, then there would be no basis for pay now. So that, again, that's a very highly technical question, and I think easily fixed, but I just wanted to bring that up, and then also to remind that, reiterate the 3% is for the office of mayor, director of law, director of finance, public record, not for members of council. We chose to follow what has been our quote-unquote standard, and that is just 1 good year's service on OPERS.
Mr. Gates?
Mr. Martin's comments very good about needing to insert the 2023 figure there. I'm happy to answer anybody's questions if they have any.
Any further questions, comments?
I move the committee of the whole adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Gates, second by Mr. Martin, to adjourn the committee of the whole. With roll call.
Mr. Rob?
Yeah.
Mr. Roberts?
Yeah.
Mr. Gates?
Yay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yeah.
Council comes out of the committee of the whole session at 7:36. Ready for legislation. If there's no other unfinished business, legislation.
Ordinance number 1, 2023, amending sections 258.01, salaries of members of council, 258.02, salary of the mayor, 258.03, salary of the director of law, and 258.04, salary of the director of finance and public record of chapter 258, elected officials' salaries of the codified ordinances of the city of Shelby.
Move for first reading.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. Roberts for the first reading of ordinance number 1, 2023. Discussion? Mr. Martin.
I move for unanimous consent that the 2023 salaries from the existing ordinance be placed in letter A of each respective session, and then the following lettering follows suit, A to B, B to C, D to E.
Mr. Gates.
Reserving the right to object. My intentions, after that was pointed out in the committee of the whole, I was going to bring in a substitute ordinance for the next meeting to accomplish the same.
Works for me, works for you.
Then consider that withdrawn.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Rob?
Yeah.
Mr. Roberts?
Yay.
Mr. Gates?
Yay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yeah.
Ordinance number 1, 2023 passes its first reading.
Ordinance number 2, 2023, vacating Glen Road within the city of Shelby, Richland County, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Move that the rule requiring that ordinance be read on 3 separate occasions be suspended.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Martin and a second by Mr. Gates, that the motion requiring that ordinance be read on 3 separate occasions be suspended. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Rob?
Yeah.
Mr. Roberts?
Yay.
Mr. Gates?
Yay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yeah.
The motion to suspend passes.
Move the ordinance be taken up and passed.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. Martin for the passage of ordinance number 2, 2023. Discussion? Mr. Martin?
I believe we have some people present that may want to speak to this. If not, it's all right, but I have to give them the opportunity to speak.
Up here, about Glen Road or Old Development.
Old development, sure.
We're just going to. Yeah. We either wanting to vacate Glen Road, so.
For the record, state your name and address, please.
Jared Behor, Technology, 139 Technology Parkway. My home address 3424 Rock Road, Shelby. We are wanting to vacate Glen Road because currently it goes through the property line where you get most undevelopable property for the Phillipses and away from the residential areas on there. And to be able to cut across there, the new 75,000 square foot building needs to obviously cross there. So it's under development. We can talk a little bit more about development. Do you have any questions on it?
Any further
That's why
discussion?
we're going to vacate it. So.
Any further discussion? Mr. Beck?
On section 1, the end of section 1, I think it's pretty important to note where it says, the city reserving all rights of easement, including but not limited to those reflected on the attached plat, copy of which here is exhibit 2. We have an existing storm sewer that runs through Glen Road. So this, with talking with the law director, this would keep that storm sewer easement as part of that in there, so forth. And on the rear, on the east side of that, there's a ditch back there too, so that would keep our easements like that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Rob? Yay. Mr. Roberts?
Yay.
Mr. Gates?
Yay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yay.
Ordinance number 2, 2023 passes.
Resolution number 1, 2023, authorizing the City of Shelby to enter into an agreement with Lloyd Rebar Company, LLC, and Shelby Iron Works Properties, LLC, for a new light manufacturing and warehousing addition pursuant to Chapter 5709 of the Ohio Revised Code Enterprise Zones and declaring an emergency.
Move resolution to be taken up and passed.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Roberts and a second by Mr. Gates for the passage of resolution number 1, 2023. Discussion? Mr. Gates?
Mayor, there's a slight correction that needs to be made, slight but important. Looking at the fourth whereas paragraph, where it talks about the second line, the retention of 10 full-time employment positions. The word retention should be changed to addition. That would correspond then with page 3 in the application. I discussed this with Ms. Gribbins this morning, and my suspicion that that was in error. She confirmed that, so I ask unanimous consent that in the fourth whereas paragraph, second line, the word retention be changed to addition.
You've heard by unanimous consent the removing of the word retention, replacing with the word addition in the fourth whereas. Are there any objections? You get the Eagle Eye Award again, Councilman Gates. It shall be changed to addition. Any further discussion? Mr. Gates?
Mayor, I'm very happy to see this. I'm sure I don't want to speak for my colleagues, but I can't imagine anyone is unhappy to see this. You know, a business that is was established there, expanded once, and now is expanding again. The notes, you know, what we heard at Finance Committee meeting, it's a $750,000 expansion, 25 new jobs, new payroll of $450,000 a year. The Pioneer School Board and the Shelby City School Board have agreed for, this is a new acronym I learned, for pilot payment in lieu of taxes. one always has to be careful about using acronyms. It's a way that we keep insiders in and outsiders out. My wife is very good to point that out to me. So, but the two school boards have agreed to that. They are brought into the loop because of the 100% abatement. So this is very good to see indeed. And it's if we had more technology on Technology Parkway, I'd be even happier, but I'll take what I can get at this time.
Can I give you an update a little bit?
Surely, please.
I'll do it again, better this time. Here at Ward 139 Technology Parkway. Our plan is, thank you guys for passing, our plan is to build a 75,000 square foot facility. I just got back from Europe 2 months ago. We bought 2 more rebar robots in the United States, so we already have 1 or 2. And the total investment will be roughly $10 million with the everything and all combined. Our PO purchases for equipment's over $4 million. So, and then the building's gonna cost between $6 and $7 million. Our plan is to really the sidewalks and fulfill Ralph's vision. I gotta help Ralph build that road in high school. Work for me, he's obviously next door neighbor. And I really want to fulfill his vision. When he passed, he was only a year into it. With his daughter's moving away, we really believe that we're going to be on the forefront. As part of our purchases, we pretty much now have purchase agreements for the next 5 years for all the ground that butts all the way up to the Keynote Center off Lamplighter. And then the only property that we do not give an option agreement on is behind the ambulance services. Right now, we really respectful of the neighbors there on our hand. There's a lot of acreage out there to go on. So I would like to talk about some point in time, the need for safety, because our revenue is about to go 500%, and the amount of at least 500%. Right now, we're doing roughly $15 to $20 million in business, and with the update in the growth plan, which we'll talk about more later, would definitely be growing by hundreds of percent. Our fear is for safety out there and technology. We want to get new lights up there, get sidewalks on our side. We're willing to sidewalks that the entire commercial area down technology from the woods. We did some woods cleanup this year. I know a lot of people were complaining a lot about that, but that was more for safety because that wood sits very, very wet. And the runners go down the road. Our semis, we're going to be running 7 trailers, semi trailers a day up and down the road. And so I think it's important that the city looks for the safety of people on the other side of technology. But we're going to do our portion on our side of things. But we look forward to it. Appreciate being part of this city, and that's why we keep growing here. But if you have any questions?
Mr. Martin. I'd just like to commend Jared on his vision, and it's nice to see it come to fruition and keep on growing. I remember meeting with Jared in his headquarters at the time, which was in your basement. And when you were looking to purchase the property that you had before we did another expansion out there, and hearing what you wanted to do. And it's wonderful to hear visionaries talk, and I never knew I could get excited about a conversation about rebar. But when you talk to someone who is excited about it, that energy kind of rubs off, right? And I'm not going to pretend I understood half the conversation about rebar. I probably still don't, but it is good to see that vision, and I am really glad that we can play a very small part of the success of Lloyd Rebar. You guys are responsible for the vast majority of it. I do have 2 minor corrections myself. On page 5 of both the executing agreements, Jared's name is spelled wrong, so seeking unanimous consent to correct his name on both of those. That's page 5 of the executing agreements, where it lists Lloyd Rebar, et cetera, right below it. Jared, or president, has his name J.E. instead of J.A. on both of them.
changing the spelling from J-E to J-A on both places, that's the proposed, what page again?
It was page 5 on,
All right, it's been duly noted by Mr. Geis over here.
all right, good. As long as.
Are there any
Mr. Geis knows-
objections?
Yes, enterprise zone compensation agreement, page 5, and then, looks like I got 2 copies of it, maybe? Is there only supposed to be 1 copy?
Mr. Geis, one's for Pioneer and one's for Shelby School.
All right, well, okay, so we're gonna crack down both.
Mr. Gates.
Is the city a signatory on these?
Next page.
Yeah, page 6.
Oh.
Well, I appreciate catching the misspell, but we would have to bring both the Shelby City Schools and Pioneer District back into this. You know me, I don't mind correcting things, but, you know, it becomes a little complicated because it's not just, you know, it's not just our agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Then remove my objections to spelling. Please deal with it.
Hold on, okay. We'll withdraw your objections to spelling.
All right.
Any further discussion? I do want to say this, to add a little piggyback. Mr. Jared Mahor's story is a phenomenal story of a young man grows up, graduates from Shelby, is part of our fire department, and starts his own business, entrepreneurial spirit takes over. And to see how his business has grown under his steady hand of leadership and his dedication is just, it's a story that needs to be told from the rooftops. But Mr. Mahor is so humble and flies so low under the radar that I can barely find you. But I just want to say thank you for staying true to your hometown, loving this community, and investing here. I think I speak on behalf of all of us and the citizens of Shelby. We're very, very grateful.
And that's what I was getting at earlier, is that's why we plan on locking up all that. We're going to keep developing. Next year we'll develop again across the street and just keep on moving. So, we really want to use Northwest State College and Pioneer, collaborate, maybe get some, you know, some student housing up there near the Keto Center. But we have a lot of good plans. Like I said, my team is really good. They're a lot better than I am. And they have some really awesome plans for the future. We're getting some younger generation and some newer generation that are collaborating really, really great together. And have a good team. It's not me. I just want to remark.
Okay,
So, thank you guys.
thank you. All right, gentlemen. Yes, Mr. Gates.
Mayor, I just wondered if there's an opportunity where council could get a tour that would not be disruptive to the operations there.
Call and ask me.
Maybe Ms. Gribbons could, you know, organize that and let us know. I would be fascinated to go.
It's real cool to see. Come see the new robot. We're the first one in the United States to have one. The other person is called Trade that moves in Texas, so we take a lot of pride in our technology that we're using and what we're running to technology about collective. It's pretty cool. We have one robot there, we have 2 more on order, and we really must start collaborating more with, this year was more Pioneer, next year more collaborating more with North Pacific College, and we're going off to do.
So there is your technology piece. Wonderful. All right, are you all ready for a vote? Roll call, please.
Mr. Rob?
Yay.
Mr. Roberts?
Yay.
Mr. Gates?
Yay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yay.
Resolution number 1, 2023 passes.
Resolution number 2, 2023, directing the Richland County Board of Elections to conduct an election on Tuesday, May 2nd, 2023, with regard to whether a 0.2% income tax for the purpose of maintaining roadway and sidewalk improvements and repairs would continue to be imposed and declaring an emergency.
Put the resolution be taken up and passed.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Martin, I believe the second by Mr. McLaughlin, for the passage of resolution number 2, 2023. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Rob?
Yay.
Mr. Roberts?
Yay.
Mr. Gates?
Yay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yay.
Resolution number 2, 2023 passes.
Resolution number 3, 2023, vacating utility easements located on the north side of lot number 4,160, the south side of lot number 4,159, and declaring that said easements are no longer needed for municipal purposes and declaring an emergency.
Move the resolution be taken up and passed.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. McLaughlin for the passage of resolution number 3, 2023. Discussion? Mr. Geis.
In our subdivision regulations, when new roads are platted out, we always maintain the utility easement to run obviously our water, sewer, electric, and so forth. But with the vacation of this road, those are no longer needed, so this would just take those off the plat.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Rob?
Yay.
Mr. Roberts? Mr. Gates?
Yay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yay.
Resolution number 3, 2023 passes. We come to miscellaneous business. Any miscellaneous business? Mr. McLaughlin, I saw your hand first.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, last council meeting, Mr. J.C. Elgin talked about an issue with our nominating petitions. Per our charter, we, the deadline is 75 days before the primary or an election, and it's 90 days for the rest of the county. And so I was looking at our charter in section 53, and I had a question about that. Since it says within section 53, at least 75 days prior is the deadline for Shelby, does that give us the room to be in line at 90 days with Richland County if we desire to?
Sounds like a request for the auditor. Mr. Gates, you have a thought?
Well, the short answer would be no.
Okay, I did send a message to the law director. He hasn't gotten back with me, of course, but I thought Mr. Gates might be able to give some information on that. But I'm curious as to why it wouldn't be Mr. Gates, because it says at least 75 days.
Mr. Gates.
Well, you know, the at least, I think that wording has been in the charter from the word go. It's just the you know, the number. I believe the original charter was 30 days prior. And then it became, at one point it was 45 days and then 60 days, and then finally we got to 75 days. And so, as Mr. McLaughlin knows, the Board of Elections, you deal with absolute dates. And, you know, the voters have said, because they're the ones who write the charter, we only suggest that, you know, it's the 75 days is the deadline.
Mr. Martin.
Yeah, so to answer Mr. McLaughlin, so if you look at it, it says the nominating petitions have to be in at least 75 days prior. So let's say that the Board of Elections decided to set an arbitrary date of 90 days, right? Well, 90 days would be at least 75, of course, because you can turn your nominating positions in at 90 days. There's nothing that prevents you from doing so. However, the problem comes to the person that comes in on day 76 and push their petition. So the Board of Elections could say they need to be in 90 days prior. If someone comes in with their nominating petitions, it's day 76, regardless of what they have done, they would be valid to be put on the ballot. That's why it reads that way. So it doesn't say, the reason it says at least, it doesn't say 75 days prior, is because then we would all have to crowd in there 75 days prior on that date and put in all our petitions. It says at least because then you can turn them in early. as people are wont to do, or some people are wont not to do. That's why the language is there. So the answer is, sure, could there be an arbitrary thing set by the Board of Elections in 90 days? What have you? Yes, but legally speaking, someone going in at day 76 still has to be honored, so it would be pointless for the Board of Elections to do so.
Thank you. Mr. Gates?
Well, joined at the hip with this section is also section 6 of the charter, where we are imposed with the duty to enact a salary ordinance, not later than February 15th in the odd numbered year. So if we would change this section 50, whatever the number is, and not change section 6, then we've got two sections of the charter that are going head to head against each other.
Mr. Gates? Mark?
And to piggyback on that, the reason these deadlines are in place is for, to make sure that things are ready for a ballot in time. Initially, I think, like Mr. Gates said, it was 30 days. I'm of the mind it should not take you 30 days to get somebody on the ballot. The longer that you spread these things out, the more arduous it is for people to get on the ballot. Because nobody's thinking about the primary election now. But yet, February 15th is the date where you better have your stuff in to actually be in the primary ballot. And so, to me, it should be the county going to 75 or 60 instead of them being arbitrarily at 90. Because let's make no bones about it. These numbers are, in essence, all arbitrary. And the county decided to go to 90. But just because the county decided to go to 90 doesn't mean that we should go to 90 just to make their jobs easier. It's not our job to make their jobs easier. If they wanted to make their jobs easier, then they should come to 75.
If I may interject, it wasn't the county that said this, it was the Ohio General Assembly. These are in state law. So a Board of Elections, and I know wherever I speak, because I was there for 5, pushing 6 years, the dates and deadlines are imposed upon boards of election in many cases. The General Assembly, and I was on the legislative committee for our state association at the time, and we could go with what we thought were just crackerjack suggestions to the legislature, and they would either blow us off or screw it up, as the case may be. Not that the General Assembly ever does that now, but so I just to clarify, it's not the Board of Elections that's doing this; it's the state that's doing it for
Thank you.
everyone.
Mr. Mark?
My point remains, they should be at 75 and 60 anyways. You talk about the power of the incumbency, and you talk about wanting new blood in politics, but you make it dang near impossible for someone just to say, you know what, they really screwed up something, and I want to go challenge somebody. Well, we have to be thinking about that like a year or two ahead of time. And it's one of the things that, whether it's the county or the state legislature, regardless, the point is the same. It's one of the tools they put in place to quote unquote, well, we can't do it fast enough, but never mind. There's a reason that it is the way it is, and it is to keep normal people out of the political process as much as possible. So I'm opposed to moving us back from 75 to 90. I mean, if we were at 90 days, it puts us what, beginning of February. And I just don't. Again, if anything, we should be moving the other direction. People should be able to say, you know what, I really disagreed with how council handled appropriations in February and March, and I think I want to challenge them this year, right? By the time someone's upset with what we do in appropriations, if they haven't pulled the ballot to run against us, well, good luck, right? And so if anything, we should be going the opposite direction, is my point, not adding more time before the ballot.
Thank you. Mr. Gates?
There are any any number of suburbs, home rule communities in and around Cleveland that hold their municipal primaries in September. And I'm not advocating that, but I could make a good argument for that.
All right. Any other miscellaneous, Mr. Gates?
Mayor, my colleagues saw their email yesterday. The state auditor has made available to council members, we'll call it the draft audit for the health department for the years 2020 and 2021. Health department audits are every 2 years. Our audit was 109 pages. Theirs was 26. I skimmed through it. Their audit is quite honestly cleaner than the city's audit. There, of course, is the solicitation as to whether we want to hold a post-audit conference. I see no reason to, if we should have one. So I move that the city waive holding a post-audit conference for the health department audit, and that council designate Mr. McLaughlin to sign on the council's behalf.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. Martin that the city waive the holding of a post-audit conference. And can you complete those thoughts?
Post-audit conference for the health department
For the
audit,
health department.
and to designate Mr. McLaughlin to sign on the council's behalf.
And to designate Councilor McLaughlin to sign on council's behalf. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Rob?
Yay.
Mr. Roberts?
Yay.
Mr. Gates?
Yay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yay.
That motion passes. Any further miscellaneous business? Mr. Gates?
One last comment, and I'm sure that everyone is aware of the death of Chuck Ridenauer, sports editor for the Daily Globe. I believe I read starting in 1981. It's 40 plus years ago. He did an outstanding job in that position. There was never any doubt what was happening with Shelby Whippet Sports during his tenure. I'm sure that everyone here, council and at City Hall, extends their sympathies to his family, and have best wishes for his successor, whoever he or she may be.
Thank you so much for expressing our thoughts. Any further business on the miscellaneous? Mr. Gates?
Mayor, I move council adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. Martin for adjournment. Roll call, please.
Mr. Rob?
Yay.
Mr. Roberts?
Yay.
Mr. Gates?
Yay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yay.
Motion passes. Council adjourns at 8:07. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah.